maybe this is the problem. Maybe it's this wall here. If I twist things this way, it still stays blue.
How do you say wall? Wall.
Wow. I say wow.
This wow here. No,
Look, I'm like Gary Coleman in that movie.
Too soon.
This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher! Mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
In brightest day and blackest nights, no evil shall escape our sight. This is the Screen Watching Podcast. My name, Dan Barrett, joined by one Simon Foster.
Hello, Dan Barrett.
Simon Foster, it's been a week.
It's been a hell of a week. You're very proud of yourself for getting that out without stumbling, aren't you? That little opening there, which I believe is from something we'll be reviewing this week.
Yeah, that would be the HBO TV program Lanterns.
That is very exciting for some of us. I'll be reviewing what usually excites me. It's a new Jason Statham film, maybe not so much this week. A comedy and a horror film as well as part of this week's Screen Watching Podcast. Hello, Screen Watchers everywhere. What else are you talking about?
What are you doing here? Like, you're like just sort of going, I'm going to talk about a comedy.
Yeah,
well, this is what we're going to do on the podcast this week. We're talking about genres, people. We are going to talk about, have you ever seen an action buddy comedy? That's what we're going to talk about.
I'm
not going to tell you what it is.
I'm selling the sizzle.
There's no sizzle to that, Simon.
I want people to sit there with their earpods in thinking, I wonder what comedy he could be talking about. I'm going to stay to the end of the podcast and see exactly what he's rabbiting on about because I value his opinion.
When the fancy man comes out from the back room of the restaurant with the what do you call it? The cloth that one uses to wash dishes.
Dish rag.
With the rag over his arm and like reads you the fancy things on the menu.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
He doesn't say, potential food, maybe
We've got
sausage.
some kind of meat you may want to order.
Like, that's not what happens. You got to go a bit more detailed than that.
No. I'm happy to do it this way. All right. Well, I'm talking about Spa Weekend, the new comedy that was apparently shot in Queensland. I had no idea. And I'm talking about Insidious, Out of the Further. Well, certainly one of the worst titles of the year. Is it one of the worst films?
That's some sizzle. I want to hear about this podcast now.
Yeah,
I wasn't interested in this podcast up until 30 seconds ago.
Let's talk about what you're talking about. Lanterns is a big deal, but also on the agenda is a childhood favourite.
Well, that is one way to phrase it. So, look, we are going to talk about Lanterns. It's the new HBO take. I heard a guy, when I say I heard a guy, I didn't leave the house. But there was a guy that I read on the internet in a comment section who said that this is kind of like the current Andor. And I think there's something to that.
Wow. Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear that. Now that's selling some sizzle. Now I want to hear what you have to say. And whatever this guy on the internet was talking about.
Exactly. So I'm going to talk about that. But then also, I made a foolish decision on the weekend to go along and take my daughter to see a movie based on the premise of the film, the concept, the IP, without actually doing any further reading as to what this movie is. Okay?
You should have listened to me.
Did you know anything about this?
I know that it's a...
Okay, well, let me tell you what it is.
Okay.
This is a film that's currently playing in cinemas right now called Tom and Jerry, The Forbidden Compass. Now, I heard that title. I knew the film starred Tom and Jerry, the cat and mouse who've been delighting us for generations. They've been away for some time. Yep. And so I thought this is an opportunity to go and sit with the film, which I'm sure it's not going to be great, but it'll be good enough for my almost 5-year-old kid, and she'll have a great time.
Sure.
Did she have a great time? That is the question, and we're going to get to that later on in the podcast. Lanterns. Let's play the clip. We're going to come on the other side. This isn't your father's Green Lantern. This is the grim and gritty HBO Lanterns.
This ring, it's the greatest weapon in the universe. When and if to use it, that's the whole ball game, Junior.
Did you just use that ring to counterfeit money?
No.
Tell me how you got it. The ring.
You know how I got it. I sure as hell didn't interview for it.
Oh, well, shit, maybe you should have. Power like that, shouldn't you have to work for it?
I've been doing this since you were a baby. The only way you're gonna get this ring is over my dead fucking body.
I think he likes me.
So Simon Foster, my co-host here, where were you in 2011 when the Green Lantern movie came out?
I was queuing up, and by queuing up, I mean alone in the at the box office at Hoyt's Erina on the central coast of New South Wales, where I saw it in an all but empty theatre. There was me and one other vagrant sleeping the night off in there. So that's where I saw it. Didn't hate it as much as everyone else has hated it, but have certainly not returned to it in any way, shape, or form.
I hated it.
Yeah, I know. Most people hated it.
I really hated it. But in 2011, I had an additional reason to hate the movie, Simon.
Why is that?
Not only was it just a really turgid waste of my money and time and energy,
I don't pay
but
for
also, maybe about, say, 2 or 3 years prior to it, I got myself a Green Lantern tattoo.
Oh, that's got to be awkward. First of all, good choice. Second of all, I didn't know you were a tatted amongst us, because I've got a couple of tats myself that I didn't think you ran with our crowd.
2 tattoos, Green Lantern one side, mum with 2 O's on the other side.
2 what?
2 O's.
Okay. All right. Okay. Where are these tats on your bod?
I can't shot onto a camera.
Oh.
I'm not going to do that. But, so I got this Green Lantern tattoo, and I really like the spirit of the Green Lantern, which is that it's a superhero who's got endless ability because it's based only on his imagination. That's a cool idea for a character.
It really is.
Potentially a pretty cool logo. Works pretty well as a tattoo. Not really a very good film starring Ryan Reynolds.
Before we get on to the Hobo series, the HBO series lands.
Yeah. It's home box office, Simon.
Home box office, sorry. I added an O there, much like your mum. What was wrong with the film? Now, I'm not a devout Green Lanterner, so which is probably why I gave it a little bit more slack than the rest of the world. But what did it get so wrong?
The movie, well, it got wrong the principles of being entertaining. That was really the problem.
Yes.
No, the problem with the film wasn't that, it didn't adhere to any Green Lantern, mythos or meet the, brief. It was just purely, it was just a bad movie.
Okay.
In the same way that you're going to talk about a Jason Statham movie in a little while. Sometimes you get a good Jason Statham movie, and then most of the time you get the other Jason Statham movies.
Okay, yep, that's true.
Yeah.
Well said.
That was the problem. It was just a bad movie. Really bad, overbearing special effects that just didn't benefit the movie. Really just terrible script. The dialogue was awful.
Wasted Peter Sarsgaard. I think that's why I was there. I was going through a Sarsgaard moment. Wanted to see his take on a comic book villain. But that did not come to fruition.
It was just a bad movie. But anyway, cut to 2026. We've got this brand new HBO TV series, and they're kind of getting Green Lantern right. And when I say it gets it right, I mean it gets it right for me. So Green Lantern as a character, this is the version of Green Lantern we're seeing here with Hal Jordan. This is the second incarnation of the character. Okay, so the character was first around in the comics in the 1940s, got a bit of a zhuzhing up in the mid-60s. Okay, well, actually, I think early 60s, with the Green Lantern that most people kind of know as being Green Lantern these days. So this is the character Hal Jordan that was played by Ryan Reynolds in the previous film. And here we've got in the brand new TV series being played as a much older, more grizzled, beaten down Kyle Chandler.
Mm-hmm. Who I often get mistaken for. Some people think I look a little like Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, I can imagine that being true a few years ago.
Yeah, well back.
Yeah. So we've got the series, which when Green Lantern first sort of debuted, he was a Earthbound superhero that protected Earth. Okay, so much the same way as Superman or Martian Manhunter or any of the other DC superheroes at the time. It was very much Earthbound adventures. As time went on, they really embraced a lot of his intergalactic aspects, because Green Lantern, he's the local cop of a group called the Green Lantern Corps, which every area in space has a Green Lantern attached to it. So in this area, Earth's the only planet that really has people in it, so the Green Lantern hangs out around this planet. But, elsewhere, they'll have sectors which have, lots of planets, and it's a thriving ecosystem of, people to deal with. So this is the premise where you've got this sort of intergalactic cop. And so a lot of the comics over the years have been about him as the intergalactic cop. But probably I would say the seminal comic period for this is this period in the 70s where they decided to strip the Green Lantern character back and give him a whole bunch of very earthbound adventures to go on. They teamed him up with Green Arrow, and it's this era called the Hard Traveling Heroes. But basically, it's the two of them going through America and dealing with a lot of the problems in America at the time. So this is the 70s, and they're dealing with drugs and homelessness and just all the other, various issues. There's a very memorable issue where they discover that Green Arrow's sidekick Speedy is actually on the gear. So, he's pulling a rope on his arm and, it's all going on.
My goodness.
It's the 70s, man. It got dark.
So this is sounding like one of those great sort of 70s, weekly adventure shows that we see on television back then.
I mean, you kind of like in terms of that as a comic series.
As a comic series, yeah.
Absolutely. Like that really fit the sort of mood of it. If you think about that sort of rise of like the sort of 70s cinema of the time and tried attaching that to a kids orientated comic book, this was that sort of first sort of era where it's like comics aren't just for kids. So they're really gearing towards this sort of older teenager, the Marvel reader.
And this is what you connected with. This was your sort of favorite era.
Well, I kind of like that because it kind of stripped the Green Lantern character away from all the space bullshit and kind of sort of set him on Earth and gave him like some actual real relatable issues to deal with. Joined Dan at
the Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival in October to watch all the space bullshit. Thank you, Dan. Do continue.
And so it was during this era they introduced the Jon Stewart character to the comic books. So because they were dealing with real street issues, the idea of interracial, what's the word on the floor? Racism. That came into the forefront for the comics for a while. So they introduced.
Is that still a thing? Wow.
Well, I think in the 70s they discovered racism.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So during the 70s period, they created the Jon Stewart character, and so he's the Green Lantern of Earth who's just been added to the group of them. There was a few of them by that point, but he's the first African-American Green Lantern. In fact, there's a really cringeworthy panel in his first issue where he says, "Nah, man, I'm Black Lantern." And it's like, you wouldn't really get these days. Probably not going to happen.
That's cool.
And
so I see why this new HBO
70s.
series is connecting with you.
And so this new HBO series very much draws upon this era, this classic Green Lantern era of comics, and brings it to a modern moment. So we're watching the Green Lantern character. We've got two of them. You got Hal Jordan, and then you got the young new guy. So Kyle Chandler playing Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart being played by Aaron Pierre, who we saw there was that Netflix movie, which I never saw.
Rebel Ridge.
Rebel Ridge
Was great. He was great in that.
I've heard very good things, and I really want to check it out now because I really like him in this. I think he's very charismatic and completely just owns this show, which is amazing when he's up against Kyle Chandler, who I think is just one of those great TV presences.
Yeah, for sure. He's very good in it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we still talk about Early Edition like so many years later. And it's only because of him. No one really remembers the show at all.
No.
But
I know him from Friday Night Lights. I remember him from that.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Pass, tick. So we've got Lanterns. This takes place in 3 time periods. We've got 1996, 2016, and then 2026. Okay, and so the earliest version of it is the Jon Stewart character as a young kid who is watching a superhero on the TV. It's this Hal Jordan guy, and is like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And so the first scene in this one, we see him watching Hal Jordan give like his first TV interview. Okay, so it's Hal Jordan at the prime of his superheroing. Okay, and he's a guy that hasn't been sort of beaten down by the world yet. But as we meet him in 2016, he's partnered up with Jon Stewart, who the Green Lantern Guardians, the people that are in charge of the Space Intergalactic Corps, have apparently selected Jon Stewart to be the guy that will replace Hal Jordan at some point. TBA when that will be. So the two of them are on the road together, getting into all sorts of scrapes as Hal Jordan's sort of showing him the ropes. Okay, and then we cut to 2026 in, I think, just one scene in this
right at the
episode,
end, yeah.
Right at the end, where you find out that this is going to be a murder mystery show, finding out who killed Hal Jordan. And so through this, you're seeing a dark, gritty, neo-Western journey through America with these two superhero characters doing not a whole lot of superheroing.
No, there's not a whole lot of superheroism in this first one. Some moments where Hal Jordan finally launches himself into the skies is beautifully done. But you're right, this is very much about the power struggle, at times comical and sweet, and at times very sort of alpha male-ish between these two. It's a very awkward situation to be in when you've got to train, when your trainee is going to take your job one day. So it has that element to it, which I really liked. And it's also got Kelly MacDonald in it as the small town sheriff, who I've always been a big fan of. So, this holds promise for me. I wasn't quite as gripped by this, maybe because I don't have the backstory to it and the context to it that
I don't
you
think it's
do.
the backstory, Simon. I think it's the way that you were telling me a short while ago that you were doing your laundry while watching the show.
I may have had a few screens going when this was on. I will revisit it and maybe give it another look because, like I said, I love these two actors. I love a lot of the support cast as well. It's certainly a beautifully made show. And the way you described it then and when you put it in that sort of context of these two superheroes traveling through America and solving, problems along the way, it is kind of an Incredible Hulk kind of story, or it is kind of a kung fu type of thing where a man on the lam walking the roads of America deals with the nation's problems. So there's a little bit of that feel to it as well.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of that we're going to get from this program. Like, it sort of seems that they've created a supporting cast of potential villains in this first installment where there's a guy who he sort of seems like a bit of a sort of neo-Nazi kind of a guy, but not quite. Like, it's a bit hard to tell exactly what he's up to, but we're definitely going to see what's going on. A guy named, played by an actor named Garrett Dillahunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that guy was super charismatic, and
he was great.
He's got an interesting sort of family around him, to put it politely.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I was really into this. And I think the reason for it is you talked about the beauty of seeing how Jordan character takes to the sky and fly off. We saw very little of that. Okay, like most of the action we saw was a lot of fisticuffs and running and doing sort of very human things. The fact they limited the super heroics of it, like the superpowers, to just a couple of small scenes, like that gives it so much more power and actually rooted it in this real world. It gave us an actual tangible experience. And when you look at one of the things that I've always found a bit goofy about Green Lantern is I said he's a character who's unbound by anything other than his imagination. But in the comics, we just see him as creating these large sort of green constructs of, giant boxing gloves or trains or whatever. But here, when you see it realized on the screen, like it actually felt like it was a real tangible thing you could touch, and it was actually just I hadn't seen the Green Lantern constructs actually constructed in a way that felt real and just as authentic as I guess the rest of this program is.
You know what it is? It is also part of a subgenre that maybe I'm only just now realizing that I really, really love, and it's those stories where the superheroes walk amongst us, where everyone knows who Hal Jordan is, and at some dusty taco stand in the middle of nowhere, he's getting his selfies taken with fans.
I love that scene. I thought that was so fantastic.
Do I. Yeah, that's terrific. And I also love The Incredibles, and I'm really fond of the Fantastic Four storyline, and those things where superheroism and superheroes are just part of our society. I find really interesting, and I think that's what I'm going to find interesting as this series goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I generally find sort of superheroes being treated as gods, which we see a lot of these Marvel productions where once they put on their tights, they're not really part of humanity anymore. And you think about Spider-Man, the reason why he resonated so well to the point of $2 billion over the last couple of weeks is that he's a guy who just lives in Queens or Brooklyn, depending where he's positioned at a given time in the comics or movies. And he's got issues with his girlfriend and best friends.
Yeah, and like you, he wears full body tights, which is...
Absolutely.
He makes him very relatable. All right, okay, so Lantern is on HBO as we speak.
Can I tell you about the greatest mistake I'm going to make this year?
The greatest what? Mistake?
The greatest mistake of this year.
Yeah.
So okay. I got given to me, but I was granted the screeners for Lanterns. And as much as I love that first episode, I held off a little bit. It was like when Mr. T appears at the mall and you keep going, oh, go next half hour, I'll go next half hour. And then when I was ready to go and see Mr. T at the mall, suddenly I realized that HBO had revoked the screener access and were cutting it off for people a week before the show debuted. So I didn't get to sit down and watch anything past that first episode. And I'm dying now as a result of it. I'm so into it.
White TV critic problems right there. First world TV critic problems. But yeah, I get it. I understand that. Because you've told us previously on the podcast you missed a T story, haven't you? That is a true occurrence for you, where you missed him at the local mall.
I think you're confusing me with Homer Simpson.
First time I've done that. Listen, I've decided that I'm going to run all of this week's movies together very quickly because there's not a lot to talk about. We're in the dog days of the American summer, so famously August releases, the last sort of summer releases of the US movie calendar, aren't always the biggest of big. And that's why everyone's very excited about The Odyssey and very excited about Spider-Man, because they're all making money hand over foot and they're clogging up screens, and nobody wants to release anything big right now because of that. So we have 3 movies plonking here in cinemas in Australia that are pretty much day and date with America, and they all have the stench of late August cinema about them. So let me run through very quickly. As we have alluded to previously in the podcast, we have a new Jason Statham film. Dan Barrett, Jason Statham, yay or nay?
Nay.
Nay, not a fan.
Oh, well, so can I just clarify? I kind of
Yes.
like him, but like most of his movies, just garbage.
Yes. The last couple, and you're right, the last couple have been generally garbage. With the Mutiny, he plays an ex-British bobby who's turned bodyguard for a Bangkok businessman, a Bangkok shipping magnate, as it were, whose son has been tying up the ships with human trafficking dollars and cargo. And when Jason Statham finds out about this, he's got to set the people free and avenge the death of his boss, who's been treating him like a father all these years when he really has none.
Jaw's been broke. Knocked down a couple times. I done something new for this fight.
As you saw by that clip, there's a lot of stabbing and a slashing in this movie, some gunfire up close. It is one of the most egregious sort of Die Hard rip-offs, or probably more specifically Under Siege, which was a Die Hard rip-off in its day. That was the Steven Seagal thing. You know, and this got me thinking, back in the day, and almost right up until the last few years, the action stars that Jason Statham most resembles, you know, that B-level star like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, they were still making movies. They were still churning out films that tend to sort of dribble in onto DVD or get some, you know, theatrical release in, you know, projected on a sheet in some country somewhere. But what happens to someone like Jason Statham in a world where there is no DVD marketplace? Is he just going to keep aging into these sloppy, lazy action films? Do you have a thought? Question without notice.
Look, I mean, I think that we are in an era now where it's hard to see that there's any new action stars coming through. So I think we're just going to see him become the new face of the Geezer feature.
Yeah, well, we sort of was for a while there with the Expendable films, but they kind of petered out. But anyway, Mutiny is in a handful of cinemas around Australia as we speak. Spa Weekend is a new comedy, all shot in Queensland, apparently. I had no idea this happened. I really should, given I'm the movie guy.
Can I take you to dinner?
How's July 19th?
3 months from now?
How is it even possible that my husband left me for an older woman? You're supposed to leave me for like Gigi Hadid, not Ina Garten.
You can't just leave me like that. I needed lunch and I was scared.
I'm so sorry.
This is why we need a spa weekend. Massages, champagne, big comfy robes.
The last time I had a massage was like my last mammogram.
Girl, I worry about you sometimes. I just booked a room.
What?
We're going on a spa weekend, bitches!
It stars Leslie Mann, Isla Fisher, Michelle Beautour, and a not altogether present Anna Faris in this. She's a very strange screen presence at the moment. She doesn't look very well, but that's a by and by. In this one, 4 women go to a spa resort to sort of reaffirm their friendships and spend some relaxing time. But of course, grievances bubble to the surface, and then by the end, they've all got to reaffirm their friendships. This has all the elements that should be there. You know, hot guy bods, including the guy Andrew Demos, who's still most famous for the improbable shower scene in that Netflix series Sex Life from a few years back. Remember that became a viral thing for a while?
Yeah, I never saw it.
No, I never
saw the
it.
first episode, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I got to live with it every day. And And Spa Weekend is lacking just one thing, and that's laughs. I don't think I laughed once in this. We went to an influencer session. There was some giggling in the crowd, so maybe this is a very specific audience. But this is I thought it was a terrible waste of comedian talent. So that's in cinemas as we speak.
Look, the information I think people probably need to know is that the writer-directors of this one are Jonathan Lucas and Scott Moore, and they're the guys who wrote the Hangover movie, and based off the phenomenal success of that, were then able to start directing their own films. So Bad Mums, which is probably the film that this is most connected to spiritually, but then they also directed the... apparently a year later there was a Bad Mums Christmas. I had no idea it came out just 12 months later.
Yeah, it was
That's crazy.
rushed out. I know.
Yeah.
And the Hangover is clearly the template here. It shows what a lightning in a bottle moment that first Hangover was. I mean, the sequels to that first Hangover film show what a lightning in a bottle moment that first Hangover film was. It's also 20 years old now, and it's hard to recapture that thing. Spa Weekend doesn't even come close. Also in cinemas is Insidious. This is a horror franchise that I've kind of let slip. I know the first one is considered very scary. None of the original cast, amongst them Patrick Wilson, return other than in some flashback moments in this new Insidious film, Insidious Out of the Further. It is a movie that bounces back and forth between the dark, horrific hell in which a whole lot of demons live and the modern world in which a mother and a daughter are trying to avoid them from coming through. You know what I'm trying to say here. The ending is even more convoluted in this story, and I'm already bored with talking about it. So, I didn't like this very much. I didn't find it very scary. It's an M-rated horror film, so it's all just a lot of slamming doors and loud sound effects to get the horror across. There's some okay acting in it. Lynn Shay returns from the other Insidious films, and she got a bit of a cheer from the horror buffs in the audience. But in every other respect, this is a franchise running on fumes.
Yeah. My memory of I've not seen any of these movies, but I was pretty sure the narrative around the last one was that it was the final film with Patrick Wilson in it.
That
and
seems
so
to
he's
have been
back?
and there's quite a famous picture from, he's back in sort of a flashback sequence that links Lynn Shay to this film.
Okay.
But there's a famous picture of the demon with the sort of Darth Maul colours on his face over Patrick Wilson's shoulder. And it's considered one of the scariest moments in modern horror, and that's fine. I remember getting a good fright out of that first film. But this one is, like I say, just a franchise that's running out of puff.
Yeah, not for me. I might give that one a miss.
No, you don't like your horror films, do you?
I'm not crazy about
You're
them.
a delicate flower in that
I'm
regard.
not soft. I'm not a soft boy,
A
Simon.
little bit soft.
Yeah, okay.
So tell us about Tom and Jerry then, tough guy.
What a segue. Look, I think that it's probably important. Actually, I'm going to explain what this is and then we'll play a clip.
Yeah, do that.
This year, everyone's favorite cat and mouse couple are back on the big screen. Tom and Jerry, as you've never seen them before. On a magical journey to the Far East.
Hop on board for your guided tour of Gold City. Checkmate!
In a brand new big screen adventure. Tom and Jerry.
So we all know who Tom and Jerry are.
Sure.
Okay, we saw the cat chase the mouse, and
Which one's Tom and which one's Jerry? Well, Tom
I believe
Cat.
that Tom is the cat.
Tom Cat,
and
yes.
Jerry is the mouse. And the name of the
mice
dog,
is-
Simon, is
Biff.
that would be Spike the dog.
Spike the dog.
Now, Spike does make an appearance in this in one single
interesting.
scene, but we do not see much of Spike. So, I go to see this Tom and Jerry movie. Okay, I've been talking to the kid about Tom and Jerry, and I was like, oh, there's a Tom and Jerry movie in a few weeks' time. Maybe we'll go and see that. So we go along and see it, but I didn't do the reading up on it, because what you need to know about Tom and Jerry and the Forbidden Compass is that this is a movie where basically what Warner Brothers have done is licensed out the Hanna-Barbera characters, because they control Hanna-Barbera these days. They licensed them out to China Film Company Limited. And so they made a film for the Chinese film market, using the American beloved Tom and Jerry characters. So let me read you the premise of this one, and you can see where I went pear-shaped. During a chase through a museum, Tom and Jerry discover a mysterious compass that transports them to a fantastical world inspired by Chinese mythology. To return home, the pair must work together on a journey involving magical creatures, ancient secrets, and new allies. What that blurb doesn't tell you is that Tom and Jerry are barely in this movie, and instead you're watching a movie about some people that you've never seen before who are trying to stop the gods and find their way to heaven. Let's play a clip. Simon Foster, this movie is awful. It is a really, really terrible movie. So it's not just bad because it wasn't a movie that I thought I was there to see.
Yeah.
It's just a bad movie. It's really badly written. The comedy moments are just awful. There's musical sequences which are thoroughly unengaging. It's just a bad movie from beginning to end. And myself and every other family that was sitting at that 10 a.m. session on a Saturday morning, there was just so much head scratching that like scalps were left behind on the chairs as we were all leaving.
Let me tell you a very quick story. Because of the mystical elements to this, I think I saw this as part of the film mark. I didn't see the film, sorry, but I reached out to the producers of it to try to get it for my festival, the Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival, October 9 to 11 at Cinema George Street. And I was told by the sales agent, and I can almost quote you word for word here, hey, if you're a Tom and Jerry fan, don't bother. That's literally what they said to me via email. And then they said, hey, it's already got a Sydney distributor and it's an Australian distributor in Roadshow Films, and it's going out in August, so it won't be ready for your festival. So I didn't get it for the festival. But apparently Tom and Jerry are huge properties in China. They still have a massive following on the mainland. And that's why Warners have licensed it out, because they weren't going to spend 10 cents on another Tom and Jerry film, given the mouse and the cat status with Western audiences. But they were happy to take the bucks from China so that China could make this, what is apparently a pretty awful film.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I appreciate there were a couple of Tom and Jerry movies in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Okay, I think they did that live action animation hybrid style thing. That was the craze for, I don't know, a while.
Post Roger Rabbit.
And like, I get why that didn't necessarily work, but like, I think there's a way to make them viable. But, you know, it's taken a big risk.
Tough to blow it out to like an 80-minute storyline, though. I mean, they were always just about banging each other with pots and pans and smacking into walls and that kind of thing.
That's it. I mean, I can appreciate a scenario, though, where you got someone who's a really just like clever animator who's got this amazing take. Like, there is a way to make it work. It's not within me to be able to tell you what that story might be. But I can imagine that there could be like that sort of young creative who's like, I've got a way to make this work. This would be fantastic. And I could see it working. It would be a huge risk to get audiences interested in a Tom and Jerry feature. But
well,
like,
I wonder if you'll have that attitude when I wonder if you'll have that attitude when Acme versus Coyote drops on our shores and we get to see that, because apparently young filmmakers, young storytellers have gotten hold of this and have found a way to make a 3-minute cartoon in which people smack each other over the head all the time into a 90-minute storyline film.
Young filmmakers, Simon, are you sure?
Young screenwriters, anyway. But anyway, so we'll see. That's down, not far down the pipe now after all those years on the shelf. The big question for me is, did your daughter... I don't care what you thought of a Tom and Jerry movie. What did your daughter think of a Tom and Jerry movie?
Before I guess that, I just want to talk about Coyote versus Acme.
Okay.
When I'm saying that I can imagine a young filmmaker coming up with, you know, like their great take on Tom and Jerry and making that happen. Okay, I'm talking about someone who's got like a really sort of original idea, which is like just the idea that's pure. It's the idea of Tom and Jerry. Okay, I'm not talking about Acme versus Coyote versus Acme, which is like this sort of meta take, which was kind of funny to like stone college guys like 20 years ago when this first came around as an idea.
Your mind's open about this.
I've been trying to make this for a while.
Yes, I know they have, yes.
I don't know, like I've reached this point. I've been thinking about this a lot this past week. I'm just really tired of meta sort of parodies of anything right now. Okay, and the thing is, like, meta parodies I think were fine when everything wasn't a meta parody. Okay, but now it just seems like everything has to be like this sort of twist upon a twist upon a twist, and isn't this clever because of this thing that was like this pure idea? Can't we just get to a point where we're just making pure ideas again?
That's quite inspirational, actually, Dan.
But the question you were asking, Simon, was, did my daughter like it?
Yes.
And the thing is, I discovered that my daughter is not very demanding, and yes, she had a good time with it.
Oh, there you go. Movement and colour. Sometimes that's all they need.
I think that's absolutely all she needed.
All right, so Tom and Jerry is in cinemas as we speak. Really crept into cinemas. Like I wouldn't have known it was being released if it hadn't been for this honest sales agent. And I don't use those words very often.
Look, I kind of knew that it was coming about only because it had played at a couple of animation festivals over the last, 2 or 3 months, and I managed to avoid all of those. Yeah. But can I tell you what I'm off to see tomorrow morning as part of my commitment to seeing family films with my daughter?
What's on at the moment? I'm trying to think. No, what are you seeing? Jason Statham's new movie?
Sadly not. She wants to see it. I just said no. Okay. But let's just say that she will be saying, let it go.
You're seeing Frozen tomorrow.
Frozen.
You've never seen Frozen?
No.
Oh, wow. You're in for a treat. The
I'm not
first
sure
one's
that
lovely.
I am, Simon.
Where
Not
is
sure
that
that I
on
am.
at? Is that screening at one of the big, at Randwick Ritz?
My parental tip to the film lovers out there who've got some young kids is that Randwick Ritz every Saturday and Sunday play a kids retrospective. And considering that the chain has also got a presence in Melbourne as well, probably goes the same there. They play a family kids film every Saturday and Sunday mornings. They go into the archives and pull something out. This is why I saw Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and a bunch of other classics. I was talking about Kiki's Delivery Service a few weeks ago.
Yes, right. You were
I feel
indeed.
that was one of these 11 o'clock.
Yep. Your daughter's film education is taking up a big chunk of this podcast, which I'm all for because there's some great films. I can't wait to hear what you think of Frozen because I loved the first Frozen. It was lovely. Although it does have one Josh Gad providing a very important voice, and I know your thoughts on one Gad, Josh.
Here's the way I see this conversation going. Okay, we're going to open the podcast next week. And do you remember that scene in the movie that we call Flying High in Australia, but Airplane in the US, where he's telling his story and then you come back to the old lady who's currently hanging from the top of the plane?
Yep.
I think you'll just see my feet swinging at the bottom of the camera next week.
All right. Okay. So you've got that to do tomorrow morning. Well, that should be fun for you. If you
the suicide.
No, don't say that. Of the you can find All Things Screen Watching at Screen Watching Podcast on Facebook or at Screen Watching on YouTube. And you can find my writings on the Substack, where my Screen Space newsletter brings you right up to date in a very entertaining and often humorous way with all things to do with film. Dan?
Yes, people can find me at Always Be Watching. It's a newsletter. It's a way of life. Comes out Monday through Friday in your inboxes. And then on Friday afternoons, you usually get a bonus email. It's a special little TV guide that tells you about all the things that are on streaming to watch. It takes care of your weekend, Simon.
Have we got anything to watch next week? What's coming out?
Look,
this
week was slim in that I talked about Lanterns on the podcast last week, and here I am talking about it 2 weeks in a row.
I know. And we were lucky that we had sort of Tom and Jerry to fill out that back end as well. But I've been spoilt for choice with Oak Street and Spider-Man and Odyssey sort of happening the last month. This week sort of it came to a crashing halt with Mutiny, Spa Weekend and Insidious out of the further. Could there be 3 more insipid titles in cinemas at the present?
What I do know, Simon, is on the TV front, I was talking about a show that I'm actually genuinely very much looking forward to.
Oh, look out. What?
It is a SBS Australian original series called The Airport Chaplain.
With Mr. Hugo Weaving and that delightful young actress from The Pit, Shahina.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name, but she's terrific.
Yeah.
That'll
be it next week.
Well, I guess we've got that to talk about. Oh, see, I've got nothing to talk about at the movies. Here I am just scanning through. Oh, wait, no, next week, new Ridley Scott movie, The Dog Stars, with Jacob Elordi, Margaret Qualley, and our own Guy Pearce. So I guess that's interesting. I'm a bit worried because there is very little buzz about this film. And once again, a late August release does not bode well for a major Ridley Scott film.
No. I mean, yeah, it didn't bode well for the box office for Oak Street. And maybe if we're going to leave people on a note for the week, which is that if you haven't gone along to see Oak Street, go and do it in the cinemas.
Absolutely.
Okay, you're not going to see it on one of the biggest screens because that's all taken up with your Spider-Man and your Odyssey. Okay, but if you can get along and see it on the biggest screen that you can find around the place, go and do that. And then also, if you are a person with a small person that lives in your household, go and see maybe the best TV show of the week, which is streaming right now, season 5 of the Apple TV original Stillwater, which is this really
panda.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a Zen panda, effectively.
Lovely.
It's very good.
Will you require me to review Katy Perry The Lifetimes Tour live from Paris? It's in cinemas on 2nd of September.
How much do you value your free time?
I've got a lot of it now that I'm sort of casually employed, but I had time to see a Jason Statham movie. Maybe I could see a Katy Perry movie.
Well, look, Simon, maybe you could engage in one of two things. One, you could report to us about the new documentary Mockbuster, which I believe is about the Asylum Films business.
A young man's journey, young Australian director's journey through the Asylum studio structure. Yeah, I could do that. I want to see that.
Okay.
That looks fun.
I know very little about it. I just heard about it during the week, and I just realized here it comes out next week. Or you could also do your homework from 3 weeks ago and check out a great little crime caper TV series that I know that you're going to love called, and why did the name just drop out of my head then as I'm trying to say on this? Going to pop the edit in just a moment. What the fuck's the name of the show?
Which one?
God. Terriers. Sorry, I'm going to...
yes, I
got my edit in. One sec. Or maybe you could actually fulfill your homework obligations with a great little crime caper TV series I gave you homework to watch a few weeks ago called Terriers.
Dan, you did. And I will watch that. In fact, I might even make that my Friday evening viewing tonight and try to get through. How many episodes do I have to watch?
Look, I reckon I mean, if you get to the end of the first one, you're just really not digging it, which I would think would be unlikely.
I'm so bored with this conversation already.
But certainly... like the absolute, this is the test episode. If you don't dig this episode, completely sort of knock it off. Episode 3, which has a really good little appearance by Olivia. From Rushmore, Olivia
Williams. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, done. So it's what was the name of it? Terriers and Mockbusters, and if I've got time, Katy Perry. All right, that's a good week for me.
I didn't tell you to watch Katy Perry. Folks, this has been a Screen Watching podcast. We'll be back next week with some of this and more of that. See you then.